she is. Hello. So it didn't work on your computer?
Well, I mean, I wasn't quite sure. I saw it pop up on my phone. I had both of them open, and then so this just seemed easier, so I just did
That's
it
awesome.
here.
Yay! And you're outside because it's gorgeous out today.
It
which
is.
is so exciting. Hi! I'm so excited to meet you in person. I've just heard nothing but like good things about you from John
Mr. Snow,
who's like waxed poetic about you. Like he's such a fan. And just kind of reading.
Great.
He's so great, right?
Like, he really has. I mean, he's such a great guy. He puts so much into everything that he does, like, and it's from such like a kind perspective, and he's just awesome.
He's got that real giving spirit about him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's never, you never feel like he's coming from any other place than just trying to help you out. So, that's been, I guess it's only going to, I know, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I was like trying to figure out, like, what can I do? Okay. I don't know.
So anyway, in reading through like your IMDb page and some other pages and stuff that I found about you, you're like real good and stuff. I'm so excited to talk to you about it. All right. So for those of us, myself included, who like are just meeting you and you know, seeing you for the first time, can you kind of like walk us through your journey? How did you get started? What is your background? Like all that good stuff.
Okay. I mean, let's see. I started off in theater.
Yeah, you did.
Up in Georgia. Yeah, you know, that's where the real players play.
That's right.
They just don't get paid, so that's a problem.
That's right.
Anyway, so I started off in theater. When I went to college, I was a film major. Right after my sophomore year ended, I decided to come to California for a summer, and it's been a very long summer.
Yeah, wow. That is not the first time I've heard that, where somebody, like, they think they're only going to come to check it out, and then they never leave.
Well, I came for a summer, and like I'm allergic to pollen, and I hate mosquitoes and humidity, so I thought I landed in heaven. I was like, who would leave?
Who would leave here? I agree with you. Before I moved here, I lived in Virginia for about 13 years before moving here. So I also don't miss the bugs. I also don't miss the humidity.
No, none of it. None of it.
And the hurricanes and all that mess that you get when you live in the South. So that's awesome. So you started in theater, and then so you moved here, and then like, how did you get into
go?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. So the long and short of it, I guess, I ended up, my parents told me that I had to stay in school, obviously. So I transferred out here. I went to Cal State Long Beach. Their film program was really crap. Like the teachers, like I went to TCU in Texas, and like my teachers were amazing. If I missed class, they were like, where were you? Are you okay? And then I go to Cal State Long Beach, and they're like, what are you asking me? Like the sky is purple just to get you out of their freaking office. Like they don't care. So I actually went back into theater. I became a theater major, graduated in 2002, did like extra work along the way, did like little student films at UCLA. And this is like before, you know, anything was, you couldn't just go online and find things. Like it was Hollywood, buying the Hollywood Reporter, searching through like live productions and like what's happening, you know, like going to UCLA boards and things like that. Anyway, I guess I actually got into nonprofit in 2005. After doing the smorgasbord of PA, I was doing, you know, art direction and props and all kinds of different things. I wore a lot of different hats.
As many people in theater do, right? Like we do all the things, especially if you're part of the creative leadership team, right? Like I ran a theater company with my then boyfriend, now husband, and a friend of ours, and like you just do all the things.
Yeah, you have to, I mean, it's fine and it's good. You know, I actually am really happy that I got a chance to really get to know these things like set building and makeup and like how to freaking sew, you know?
Yeah, because you don't realize that all those skills that you're learning, you're going to use later.
Yeah, all of it. Like, it's incredible. It really does make you a better person, like, I think. You know, it makes you really look inside yourself as well, like, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Okay. Sorry, my computer's giving me notifications. I'm like, what are you doing? Wait.
I have to turn off my sound and stuff because I also get a lot of stuff during it, and it always happens when we're in chat with somebody.
Right.
Like I get the calls, I get the stuff and all that stuff. So
I don't know what it's doing, but I made a whole list of notes in here. Better not delete it.
You being prepared.
So mad. Trying, well, just so I can remember, you know what I mean? Like things that are important, and like I think it's good. Oh my god, did it really just erase all of my notes?
That's okay. I'll lead you there. It's gonna be great.
Okay. Anyway, regardless, I got into
Yeah.
nonprofit. I worked for Eileen Getty for 5 years, feeding the homeless in Hollywood, which like I also think was like really important to my journey, like into casting. Like I had no idea. The reason why I got into casting, like I guess the short of it is, I actually want to produce. And so I saw, all the, you should work in an agency, you should work at, a management company, and that's not really me, And then I had friends that were in casting, and my friend Farrah West was like, hey, like, I'm doing this movie on my own. You want to help me check avails? I was like, sure. What's that?
That's amazing. Like,
yeah,
I'll absolutely do that. You gotta teach me how, but I will absolutely do that for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was crazy because like I have no idea what I'm doing. She's like, here, call CAA and ask if these people are available, and it's these list of like huge actors. I'm like, they're gonna tell me what? Yeah. I can just call and ask what Colin Farrell is doing, and they'll tell me. Amazing.
That's awesome.
So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was cool, and I mean I got into it, and then she was working with Veronica Collins-Rooney on a show called Betrayal in 2013, and they needed an intern. So Veronica was really kind and let me come in, and probably 3 weeks after I was with her, one of her good friends, Jessie Dieslow, was a executive over at ABC, and her assistant was leaving. So she was looking for a new one. She's like, if you want to do it, I'd be happy to recommend you. So I was like, amazing. So like all of a sudden I'm at ABC, like I have no idea what's happening. I get thrown in the middle of pilot season. It is insanity. We're there till 10, 11 o'clock at night. There's like days that, they would pull out a bottle of wine and be like, everybody get your sip. Like, you're staying late when they pull out a bottle of wine at ABC.
Jay Mitchell, he was like, yes, it's definitely a wild time because he's a casting associate. That's awesome. Hi, Jay.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, go edit these reels. I'm like, great. How do I use iMovie? I mean, it's just like, I don't know. But it was so much fun. I got to learn so many actors. They have archives of every show, since 2005, like it's been on TV. It was, and they really work for their actors, which I loved. Like, we call casting directors and say like, hey, we need, this person's real that are going to test, and they'd send us some crap, and like, my Jesse would be like, this isn't going to work. Like, go pull up the IMDb, go find this, and this, like look through it and put it together so we could really like highlight them in a way that shines for the role that they were up for. So I thought that was great. I got to work with Edie Velasco, who is a one-woman show. She is one of the fiercest women in Hollywood, and with the most kind heart. She answers every email, every call. Like, she is incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been fun. I worked with Linda Lowy and Tim Payne. I did the Unicorn, the pilot of the Unicorn, which was awesome. I've worked with Chelsea Block for a really long time now. That's who I work with now, her and Marisol Roncalli. We have a company called Atomic Honey that's been around for about a year and a half.
That's a great name, by the way. Atomic Honey. That's great.
Yeah.
That's like, it tells me exactly what kind of person works there.
It took us a long time to come up with that. Like, we were going through like the gamut of how to come up with a name. But Chelsea's first movie that she did on her own was Honey Boy. And Marisol's first one was Atomic Blonde. So we became Atomic Honey.
Atomic Honey. But it also sort of describes the women who work there, right? We're strong like an atomic bomb, but we're also very sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're good. I mean, I've been really, 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 really lucky. I've gotten to work with amazing women, and Tim. I mean, obviously, like, it's really the only man that I've worked for. But it was my first time working in comedy, which is just so much different, getting to know those actors, because I've done drama for so long, and like there's different boxes for what people are capable of and people that I didn't really know, and just learning what it is to cast, a comedy. What are we looking for? Like, even finding, and it was funny because like when the idea of Walton Goggins first came up, there were so many people that were like, oh my God, he's weird. Like, can you imagine him being like in bed with these like little girls, and that's so awkward? And I'm like, I don't know, because like, he's always so sweet, you know what I mean? Like, I just met him at Sundance, like, briefly for like 2 freaking seconds. But a couple of weeks before we went into the Unicorn, I was like, he seems like such a nice guy. And I think, like, if you put like all these really hard-hitting comedic actors around him, and he's like, you know what I mean? That's what makes the magic, and they can't all be super funny. Like, sometimes, there has to be somebody that's a bit more serious, or kind of like whatever it is, in order for the jokes to play.
Yeah, and for things to be grounded, right? So it's not just like joke and joke. It's like a grounded kind of.
Yeah, because then it comes too much and it's not reality. You know what I mean? Like, which I'm sure comedies aren't, but there has to be something in there that like we feel that's normal. You know?
Yeah. Oh, girl, I have so many questions. I have so many questions. Okay, so first of all, what do you? I've had conversation with Jon Snow about this a lot. So what is it that you love most about being in casting?
Making the phone call to somebody that gets the part that, you know, it was the one that wasn't supposed to, you know, doesn't have the biggest resume. I mean, whatever it is, getting their first big series regular role. They've been around forever.
Yeah.
I mean, calling somebody to say that they got a guest star, I mean, whatever, making that phone call is the most exciting thing. Now, the downside of that is you have to call 3-4 other people and give them the bad news. But like, that moment of getting to call, and it's been so fun. Like, you know, I worked with Carol Kritzer at UDK for a long time, and she would like bring us all in to make the phone call to the actor, you know, so we could all be there to be like, oh my God, you got it, you booked it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. See, okay, so I've been out of the acting game basically since moving here. I moved here to pursue acting, but then really quickly realized that like writing, producing, and that kind of thing, and running a business is more my jam.
Yeah.
And so I was under the impression that when an actor booked a job, that casting told their agent, and their agent told them.
Yeah.
But you like to actually make the call yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What? Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
And then when we have their numbers, which like, you know, sometimes we do, like, especially when it's people that have been in the game for a long time. Like, I mean, we do create relationship with these actors, you know, that we trust and that we love. Like, I mean, there's so much of casting that I love. Like, it's just seeing the creative process, you know, how it comes together, how things change. Like, you know, an actor that comes into the room with something that's different that like then gets implemented into the next revision of the script. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the entire creative process, like as a whole, and like seeing how it comes together is pretty awesome.
John will often talk about how often casting doesn't know what they want before, like they kind of know what they want, but then their minds are usually open to being shifted and then taking suggestions or things that actors do that are so cool and putting them into what ends up happening in the actual performance of the thing.
That is true. I mean, I think a lot of what it is, because our mind, I mean, whenever you read a script, like your mind obviously starts to like, you know, go around like who would be good for this and for that and things like that. So I think we have an idea, but like, if we haven't worked with the producers before, then that's when it gets hard, because, you know, then it's like, we don't know what they're looking for, what their tone is, what their process is, like, you know, where their head is at creatively. And like, then that's, you know, and especially with something like a pilot where you really like, you're behind the second you start. You can't, you know, and you can't prepare really, because like, you can, but maybe like 5% of that work actually turns out to be something good. You know what I mean? So like, you've wasted all this time trying to figure something out when you really don't have enough information to, you know, to put it together. So it's really just having like, you know, us coming up with all these ideas, like sending it to, you know, the producers to see who they respond to. And then trying to find, you know, similar feel in other actors. And then maybe if there's somebody that we just really love, that we think was so great, you know what I mean, that's so different, like we'll bring them in just to show, you know. So it's a game, you know, and, you know, trying to figure it all out. It depends, like, you know, in TV, there's so many different, you know, players involved. There could be too many, you know, cooks in the kitchen necessarily. Like, you know, producers are on different sides of the page, you know what I mean? The studio's on one side, the network's on the other side, like, and just trying to get everybody to agree can be difficult.
So it sounds like you guys are in concept. Not only are you like working with all the actors, but you're, like you were saying, working with the producers, working with the studio executives, and you're trying to be creatively adjusting to what everybody is looking for and needing. Yeah. That sounds exhausting.
It is. You know, and we have a director that has another vision, you know what I mean? So it's just like, and you're trying to like, you know, I think that the directors do get, you know, a big hand necessarily until they start to go sideways, and then you got to wrangle them.
All right. So one of the things that I'm so excited to have you on here today is, I'm a big proponent of taking away the mystery of our industry, right? Because everybody, we just have these ideas, especially as actors, right? The actors have these ideas. They tell stories in their head about what people think and what they need and all this stuff, and they don't quite if they've never worked behind the camera, producing their own stuff or whatever, they don't tend to understand the value and all the work that happens up to the point where actually auditions start to happen and you get booked in something.
Yeah.
So your piece of the puzzle is casting. So I was wondering if you could walk us through what sort of a typical day for a casting director looks like in the busy season when you're in the thick of it, and it's like, you know, because John is like, they're there for 16 hours a day and la la la, and they're answering thousands of emails a day. So like, what does it actually look
It's a
like?
marathon and a sprint.
Great.
It is.
Okay.
I mean,
so,
it is.
So you get there at like, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, it depends. I mean, we normally like 9:30 is kind of the jump point, like between 9 and 9:30. You know, that being said, like during our busy season necessarily, like we do sometimes have to come in at 8:30, you know, something like that. And that's after like preparing whatever you had at home from the night. I mean, whatever it is. But like, the phones never stop ringing. The emails consistently come in. We have thousands of actors that we have to look for, through submissions. So it's like going through these like, you know, little pictures, you know what I mean? And trying to figure out. Yeah, exactly. I mean, because like we have our own ideas, but we also want to see who submitted as well. You know what I mean? And like just to help like get us creatively, you know, who we can get out to. Sometimes there's people that get submitted that we would have wouldn't have thought about, or like, you know, just became available or whatever it is. And we can like dive into those conversations with the agents, and, you know, it's constantly moving parts. And like,
that's crazy. So you're in the morning, you're looking through all these thumbnails, you're like seeing who got submitted for things, looking through all that stuff.
Yeah.
Also probably getting phone calls and emails, pitches from agents.
Oh yeah. Right?
And
I mean, it's crazy because it's like, we call for avails and they're like, oh, you have to email me, you know what I mean? And like, when the tables are turned,
I'm on the phone with you, just tell me. Oh
yeah, well, no, because they'll call and it's like, you know, just email me. Like, I'm not like, they're like, oh, and then this person and this person. Oh my God.
You're saying email you. Okay,
yeah, like, you know what I mean? But then they call and I'm like, dude, just please email. Like, that way I can have time to like look through these. Like, if there's people that I don't know, I can check them out, like whatever it is. But you're literally trying to chew my ear out for 5 minutes and I don't have 5 minutes.
Right.
You know what I mean? I appreciate that you're working for your people. I know there's agents out there that, you know, that don't pick up the phone and they don't fight for their people. And like, I'm not on board with that. If you're working, you know, for somebody and you're taking a percentage of their work, you should be freaking working for them. And you should be like emailing, you know what I mean? And then there's the ones that we ask to email their pitches and they'll literally send us their freaking roster. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, please,
and I feel like those agents are probably not people you would call on them very often if they're going to do that.
I mean, when we get overwhelmed with an email, like honestly, it's delete, like, or we'll put it in a folder, you know what I mean? Because it's just like, it's too much. Like, please, like, do your work, like, read our breakdown, know what we're looking for, you know what I mean? Like, at least to a degree. And like, there's a lot of things that we can't say because what it is. I mean, I think what John is saying that sometimes we don't know what we're looking for is like, you know, diversity wise, like, is this like, you know, this says that this person is a nerd, do they look like a nerd? You know what I mean? Or like, it's just, and TV is very like stereotypical, right? Like, all the people that they're casting, like, generally are very much like the stereotypes of what like comes to your mind when you think of like, you know, A, B, and C characteristics or whatever it is, you know. But like, sometimes it's fun to have a different idea or a different, you know, of what that is, but we just don't know like who's gonna. I don't know. So it's hard. But I see where he's coming from, saying that we don't know what we want, because it's like, there's just so many different creative minds involved. So it's not necessarily like looking for what we want, but it's like finding the thing that goes across the board. Somebody can fight for it. Like, if we can say, like, if we can stand behind somebody and say, I know this isn't what you're looking for, but like, we've known them for years. You know what I mean? They're excellent. Like, the choices that they bring to the table, like, every time are, you know, are on point, or at least they're different, or they're good, you know, whatever it is. Like, they'll put the homework into it, and they could show us a side of this, you know, this role that like isn't on the paper.
Yeah. So it sounds like when you're looking through all of the information that is getting sent to you, you know, when I'm working with somebody, I'm really trying to get across to them, we are trying to make your job as casting director easier by presenting you the most essenced, like, key cornerstone act, like, character that you're playing, so that they don't have to sit there and go, can I imagine this person? You literally don't have time to imagine. It's not that you don't have an imagination.
Yeah.
It's that you don't have time often to use that, right? Because there's just so much information all the time.
Well, we also have to, that's information that we can use to pitch too. Like, we fight for actors, you know what I mean? Like, their producers don't know actors, you know what I mean? So, like, even if we know you, like, you know, then we're figuring out, like, how can we, like, push and say, you know what I mean, to really, like, highlight somebody, you know what I mean? Or is there somebody that, like, we really like that we've sent a couple times and there's no response, you know, and then, you know, we're 2.5 weeks down the line and they're like, I don't know, like, will you please just go back and, like, revisit this person? Like, you know, we really believe in them or whatever. And we do fight for actors. Like,
that is such good news to hear. That is such good news to hear.
We want every person that comes in to be the freaking person, dude. You know what I mean? Like, we don't do anything without, like, full intention. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is, like, we want to freaking cast that part. You know what I mean? And we want to do it well. And, like, we do fight. You can't be in this industry as far as casting if you don't love actors. Like, they're fun, they're crazy, they're insane, and they're awesome. Like, in every way, you know what I mean? We are fully entertained. Best part of our day is when we get to do sessions, except for when we come out, we have 500 emails and 15 missed calls, you know, however many missed calls, you know, so it's like. Okay, so on these busy days, it sounds like morning times are kind of, let's see who we've got. We're in constant, like, we're trying to cast this person and these other people, so we're managing all of that, plus all the emails and phone calls that are coming in from producers and agents and managers, etc. Then there's the session running, right? Where how long, like, what does that look like? Because it's been a long time since I've been in it truly depends, you know what I mean? We don't have sessions every day, we can't, you know what I mean? But, like, I've sat in sessions that we had a morning session, a break for lunch that, like, didn't actually become a break because we got behind, you know what I mean? So then it's like, and then we're coming back into another afternoon for another, like, 4 or 5 hours, and it can just be brutal. Like, I mean, it is exhausting. But, like, I mean, every day changes. It's really hard to say because sometimes we start off at 9 a.m. We have to start off with sessions then because we might, you know, have a character that just got written in that works the next day. Like,
wow.
I mean, there's one thing that I wanted to mention, like, because I think, like, I mean, two things. I think, like, definitely self-tapes. Like, self-tapes are huge. Like, people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. I really want to just get in the room. Like, that's a tool. That's an opportunity. You know what I mean? I have seen many, I mean, almost every show I've worked on, there's been at least one person that self-taped and came, you know, was flown out or brought in for a callback off of that self-tape. You know what I mean? I've seen people that booked.
Let's dig deep a little bit because I think that the actors who are going to watch this now and who are also watching in the future, they're going to be like, Melissa, ask the question, what are they looking for in self-tapes?
You know what? I mean, the thing is like, it's the same thing as you're coming into an audition room. You know what I mean? The only thing is, like, about self-tape is that we can't redirect you right away. But, like, if we see something in your audition, like, I've called 100 people to retape, you know what I mean? Like, hey, like, you know, they did a really great job, but, like, these are some notes, can they retape, you know what I mean? And so it's like, just, you're the creative mind as the actor, you know what I mean? The same thing, like, I know you can't come in and ask us, like, oh, where were they coming from or whatever, but, like, you shouldn't be asking that anyway, because that's your job to create, you know what I mean?
Right, yes. So do what John says, which is take ownership and say, this is what I'm presenting to you as my offering for today.
Right.
And this is where I see it going.
Yeah.
And it might match up with you. Right. Don't get in your head. Like, don't try to, what it sounds like you're saying is don't try to figure out what it is that you want. Rather, figure out how you want to present, how the actor wants to present, and how they see the role.
Yeah, your job as an actor is to create the character. You can do that on, you know what I mean? You can totally do that with a self-tape, and that's what it is, you know. And I you know, I have friends that, like, get so, like, in their head about a self-tape, and they'll do 9,000 takes, you know, and their poor reader, whoever else is with them, is like, oh my God, I'm gonna freaking kill you.
You're like, we've read this 47 times.
Yeah, no, just this one thing I just don't like, and, like, I mean, it's just, I mean, please don't overanalyze it. Like, generally speaking, like, I've seen things go down the more you get into your head. Like, let that be spontaneous. It's an art, you know what I mean? The more you get into your head, your performance is going to diminish, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There are a lot of people who teach sort of right and wrong ways to do self-tapes, and that really bothers me. I feel like the only things that you need to get right is to make sure that your lighting is good and that your sound is good, so that you're not being, like, the person watching it isn't being distracted by the curtain that's you know, dirty or you know, in the background, or like there's an echo and all I can hear is the echo and I'm not paying attention to your beautiful acting. So I mean, I'm assuming though that you get sent these self tapes that are in all sorts of states, right?
Oh my god, I mean it can be comic relief. Like, I mean, there's times when we're in so, you know, just hell and high water, and you know what I mean. Somebody like, oh my god, you guys have to come see this self tape. You know, this self tape at like a big office. You know, everybody comes and like watches it because whatever they do, I mean, it's just entertaining. Like, I mean, I've seen people, you know, walking down the streets of Paris, like, you know, doing their, you know, whatever it, like silly things. Like, it's bizarre, but it's fun and it's interesting. You know what I mean? And like. Would you
ever, let's see how to put this. Like, would you ever, do the people who give those tapes that are not of really good quality, does it make them look green or does it not matter? Are you really trying to look through it to see the acting?
It depends. I mean, if we're, you know, if we're having people tape that are like, you know, 50 or 60-year-old women, like, we can't expect them, you know what I mean? Like,
to be perfect with it.
Right. But like, if we get this like crap self tape from like a millennial or something, it's like, seriously, dude, like, you couldn't figure it out? Like, and it's just.
That's so funny.
You know, I mean, sometimes it's just like, it's instantly just, you know, a waste of time, and it's too, I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's hard to say, but like self tapes, like really, like your job is to create your character and present it, and you can do it just as well on tape as coming into the room. And I know you want to build that relationship, but this is how you build that relationship. Because like, we will send out 100 self-tape, you know, notifications and get 30 back. And like, people are knocking down our door, you know, it's just, it's so crazy because we have all these people knocking down our door to get into it. And then we send out, you know, this plethora of tapes and get back 30 out of 100. And I'm like, I thought you people wanted to do this. Like, what's going on? You know? And it's just like
crazy.
It is because they, you know, whatever it is why they don't do it. But like, this is your opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, we've gotten to know actors off of self-tape, and like, you do well in your self-tape, we bring you in for a callback, you're now on our radar. You know what I mean? Like, and then the next time, you know, maybe we will have time, because like the honest to God truth is that it helps us to see more people. Like, we can only physically see so many people in a day. You know what I mean? Like, and for like, for co-star roles, like, you know, we'll see 20 people. 20 freaking people, and you know what I mean? And that, because we got to knock it out. It's 3 lines, you know, or 3 words or whatever it is, but it is important. Like, do your homework. There is an art to co-star roles. Do not freaking knock it down because it's a couple of words. Embrace it, create the character, and do it, because those co-star roles are what's going to get you more co-star roles, get you into, you know, whatever, like the guest star roles and whatever it is. Like, I mean, in all honesty, like, even when we're looking for guest star roles, like, I mean, I'll go in and find people that are just SAG. I'll go to resumes and see if you've done a couple other like network TV shows, you know, and just to show that like you've been on set, you know how to show up, you know, you have I mean, there's a ton of people that can have the look, right?
Yeah.
So then it's like, so how do I narrow it down from here? Like, I want to be able to find, you know, even if I'm seeing 20 people, I'm going to make the best selections that I can based on like what I can see that you've done, like. And that's how you do it. You know, you get a lot of those co-star roles like are coming off of, you know, because once we get to know somebody, you're probably guest star level. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, this is your opportunity to get to know us and take every one of those chances. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't feel like you're right for it, like, try it.
You see something that might be right for it. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like there's 2 really big takeaways that I hope the people who are watching have gotten out of this conversation so far. That one, your self-tape is a tool to help build a relationship with that casting office.
Yes.
And then the same thing applies for co-stars, that when you're reading for co-stars and booking those co-stars, you are building, it's like putting credits on a resume, that's fine. But what you're really doing is building that relationship with Karri, you know, so that she knows who you are. And when she thinks, oh my gosh, there's this
that
guest star.
That you're going to show up, that I know that you're going to do the work. You know what I mean? Like, we're constantly concerned about, you know, being embarrassed in front of, especially if we're working with new producers, you know what I mean? Like, all of this reflects on us, you know what I mean? And so like, I don't think actors get that, because they tend to just think about them, right? And like, how am I being perceived? But really, just how much pressure you guys have to deal with every day. From network, from producers. Then the workload that it sounds like you guys have.
I mean, it's astounding.
Yeah.
That you're also, you do all this and you're still very excited and love actors and you don't find them annoying. Like, that's amazing. It's like a special kind of person.
You have to love,
to do that.
It's
That's
true.
Incredible.
It's true. I mean, Kai and Cash, they do care, you know what I mean? We care immensely.
Yeah. Because I mean, you wouldn't be in this job if you didn't.
You couldn't. You absolutely couldn't. You go insane. I did get my notes up. What did I say?
Oh, you did? Oh, awesome.
Yes. Okay.
Well,
props.
Great. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about, because I think this is a big thing of what people really, they want to hear from the horse's mouth, basically, is sort of what to do, what not to do, what matters, what doesn't matter. And I think we should talk about that both in the actual audition itself, but also in like how to create relationships with people.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the audition stuff first, because I think that's what people are here to see. So props,
props and wardrobe. I think, like, I mean, first of all, never bring any fake guns. Don't do it. Ever.
Have people done that? Please.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're fake. They're fake. But
still,
like, you know, and they'll be like, oh, like I brought this, you know what I mean? And even just pulling out and being like, hey, I brought, like, everybody's hearts just stopped in the room. You know what I mean? Like, that's not like, you know, you
use your cell phone or your hand.
You can run, you can do all these things, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need it. Like, I mean, but that being said, like, if you're on the phone in the scene, use your cell phone. Like, this is ridiculous.
The banana,
you know what I mean?
Not,
you have a phone. I know you do. Just freaking use it. You know what I mean? Like, it just plays so much better. Like, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, just think about what you're doing. Leave your fairy wings at home. You know what I mean? Like,
please tell me somebody's brought fairy wings. Please.
Oh yeah. Oh no, my favorite. No. And like, this was actually really cool. Like, when I was working at UDK, they were doing American Horror Story. Not American Horror Story. Sorry, it was the other. When they showed up like Marilyn Monroe, and they were doing all these old characters. Another Ryan. Why can't I remember his name right now? From Fox, he's one of the huge.
Johnson.
No, I should know this. I don't. Anyway, regardless, it was one of the TV shows where they had all these people that were portraying all these very old school, like Marilyn Monroe type people, and it was so fun to walk through the waiting room and see 8 women dressed there in their interpretation. So that was kind of fun, and that's different. You know what I mean? Like, I think to a degree because it is so specific, but like
bringing a gun or like
a
gun. Like,
if you have something simple, like, I mean, if you're coming in from military, like, black is great. You don't need to like go buy the camo and the freaking hat.
Ryan Murphy, thanks.
Murphy, thank you.
Thanks,
yes, thank you. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me today. I've been in freaking quarantine for too long. My brain is mushing.
I feel you, girl. I feel you.
But that was fun. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, be logical, think about it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to like dress in the vein of what you're coming for. You know, if you're coming into place, you know, an executive or whatever, a top CEO person, whatever it is, like, don't come in your freaking Bermuda shorts and your freaking, you know, whatever. Like, at least find something similar. And it doesn't have to be like, don't go through your entire wardrobe or call your friend at, Universal, whatever. Just, make it work, like, be in the vein, but you don't have to be over the top.
So it's more about, it sounds like it's a little bit more about being the right, for lack of a better word, essence, like having the presence of the character that is then just sort of a little underscored by what you're wearing or what you're using as your prop. But like you said, if you're auditioning for, I've heard people are like, if you're auditioning for a doctor or a nurse, show up in scrubs.
Yeah.
Is that good? Is that bad? Does it matter?
I mean, like, working on Grey's Anatomy, we saw freaking, I was working at Linda Lowy's office, kind of on Grey's Anatomy, more so on The Catch, but you kind of work on everything, like, just
By the way, I loved The Catch. I was very sad that it got canceled.
I know, anyway. It was so good. It was
a fun
so
show.
Good. But we saw tons of people that came in scrubs, but that's something that's simple, and even if it's just the top, you don't have to come like full everything, you know what I mean? Like, put on the top, that's great. Wear your jeans, like, you don't need the stethoscope and like the whole, whatever.
The whole
like,
nine.
Like, simple is good,
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great. Is there stuff that you've seen, like a pattern of behavior or something that actors tend to do that they think is really important but really isn't? because actors tend to get a lot in their head, right? Like they tend to overthink things a lot.
Yeah, I mean, even just coming in and like your job is to come in and audition. You know what I mean? We have people that come in, they want to tell us about their life story, or they want to tell, you know what I mean? And I think they're trying to make that human connection and make themselves like stand out, which I get. But like you're here to do a job. You know what I mean? Like if we we'll ask you, you know what I mean? Like if we have time and there's like not a waiting room or what, you know what I mean? Then sure, like there's times we'll be like, how are you? How was your day? You know what I mean? Like when we have time to do it, but like read the room when you go in, and like, you know, if you've been sitting, you know, waiting for 45 minutes and there's like, you know, all these other people that are in the waiting room, like we don't have time for it. You know what I mean? Like we really don't. We're trying to get through. We don't want people to wait. Like we get very nervous about having a waiting room. Like that makes all of us nervous. You know, we're trying to get through it as best we can to give everybody like the same opportunity, but sometimes like you just got to come in and do your job. You know what I mean? Like when we're working, you know, in the production office, and you know, I'm not going to go over to the arts department and be like, hey guys, what's going on? Like, can I see your designs? Like,
right? Because ain't nobody got time for that, right? On a deadline, you know, especially television is I've heard it described as like, you know, an immovable train that once it's on the tracks and it's going, it can't stop.
Yeah.
And I feel like casting is the same. You're a part of that machine.
Yeah.
And, you know, so if there's a waiting room and there's lots going on and it seems very busy, just go in and do your job. Be pleasant.
Yeah.
Just go in and do your job and kill it.
Let us come to you. You know what I mean? Let us say it. And it's, you know, if you have a little, you know, quirky little one line, you know, something, whatever, I mean, that's fine. But just be fast, you know what I mean? Like, I just, please read the room, you know that like everybody's time is precious, and like, you're not doing yourself any favors by, you know.
I also feel the inverse is also probably true, where if they walk in and there just seems to be like, if you guys are having maybe a real tough day, it's been going wrong from the time you got there, and it's not that particular actor's fault, but there's just like that sense that actor shouldn't take that personally. Just know, at least now that when the people who watch this will know how much work you do per day and how relentless it is, you can then start to understand and look at casting as other humans who are just trying to do the best they can with the time they have and manage the best they can. And everybody has off days and really good days. It's going to be 50-50 split, and it has nothing to do with you as an actor.
Nothing.
Right?
I mean, and then, to be honest, like, you know, we write our notes, we'll go back and, you know, rewatch tapes before, like, you know, we'll send off our link, you know what I mean? So like, you just have to worry about coming in and doing your job. You know, like your job is to show up, to do the homework, to do your performance, and leave it at the door. I mean, I have friends that I've known for years that I've called in, you know, and we've always been super cool. And then like the second they leave, like they're texting me like, oh my God, I hope I didn't embarrass you. You know, all these, I'm like, oh my God, like, what?
Chill.
You know what I mean?
Like people need to get that, like, nobody sits around thinking about you as much as you think about you.
Yeah, and it's just leave it at the door, but it's not good for you either, you know what I mean? It's a terrible thing to do to yourself. Like, just know, you know, if you come in prepared and you know, you have to be happy with your performance. If you're happy with your performance, that's where it stops, you know what I mean? And that's where it should stop. And like, just let it be, let it go. Like, I mean, there was an interview that I saw with Bryan Cranston like years ago, where they're asking like, what's your advice to actors? And he literally said that, and I was like, oh my God, it's freaking amazing. He's like, this is your job. He's like, the second that like I realized that my job was to show up as an actor, to do the performance, you know, to give my version of this character within the space that was given, and to leave it at the door when I left and like just let it go. He's like, that's when I started booking, because I wasn't coming in with this desperation. I wasn't coming in with this like, you know, his need and desire was to show this character, you know, to these people, to present it and to move on, you know what I mean? Like, and that's when the performance is able to come out, because you get out of here.
Yes. And I feel like I feel like actors who are starting to really audition a lot, right? Like they're starting to get those co-stars, and they're the guest stars and all that stuff. That you're probably going to be a little awkward in the beginning. It's a skill. Like this, what we're talking about feels like a skill that can be learned.
No, it is.
It just takes
it's
multiple
100%
times.
skill. Yeah.
Right?
And that's the whole thing, is like, that's what I'm saying. Like every audition you get, self-tape or not, that's your opportunity. And then with every opportunity, you're going to grow and you're going to get better. Like, you know, you're learning, you're becoming more, even just becoming more comfortable in the room. You know what I mean? Like, And then another thing actually coming to speak of that is coaching. When people come in and like, maybe we don't really know you necessarily, but you give this amazing performance, you know what I mean? Like, we want to bring you back. We're so excited. Like, maybe we found this like new star.
Yay!
Yeah, we get so freaking excited. And then they go and they get coached and they come back with a completely different, you know, and it's like, that's the performance that every other actor gave us that didn't come back. Like, you did something in that audition, you know, and if somebody's coaching you, there's something that you did, that you created, that we saw, and we want you to dig deeper into that. Take what you did and dig deeper. Don't go to somebody else and say, well, this is what I did. What do you think? And then they change everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you got yourself there.
Yeah.
Like, trust in yourself that there's something that you did, that you created. Like, I mean, if you went to a coach to get to the first place, then maybe you go back to that coach, you know what I mean? And maybe they can help you dig deeper, sure. But like, if you did the work that got you to the callback, you need to do the work to show up at the callback.
Well, it's so funny to me that people think that they need to change anything for the callback.
Because they get nervous. I mean, they'll come in the same clothes and they'll come, you know, but the performance is different. I'm like, it wasn't the t-shirt that got you back. Like,
word.
You know what I mean?
Word. Oh, girl. Oh, this is so good. I feel like we could talk about this particular thing for hours. All right. So, so in your opinion, how do you feel it is best for actors to create relationships with casting?
Show up, be prepared. Like, I tell you, like, show up and be prepared. Turn in your self-tapes, get them in on time. You know, I mean, we notice when you're doing the work. And like, when we know that you're doing, we need to trust. Like, we're never going to bring you to a producer session if we're not going to trust that you're going to show up and represent us well. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what it is. And like, building the trust with your casting directors is the most important thing that you can do for your career, because we are the gatekeepers. Like, producers don't know a lot of actors, especially ones that are coming in from these positions. And we do, because we've seen you for years. From the first time that, you know, you came in and like, stumbled through your first, you know what I mean? So whatever it is, like, over the years, like, we start to get to know you because you show up and because you do the work. And that's when we start to, like, you know, have you, you know, maybe give you the opportunity to come in for something bigger, or like whatever it is. But like, you have to build that trust. It's imperative. Like, that's what's going to make or break your career, to be honest.
Key takeaway here for those who are watching, notice that she said over years. This is a long game, right?
Right, because not every role is for you. You know what I mean? And like, we have different projects, but we can only work on so much at one time. You know what I mean? Like, I know so many actors that I love, you know what I mean? And they'll call and be like, oh, like, I saw this breakdown or whatever. And like, they're not right for one reason or another, you know what I mean? But it's like, not every part is for you. And like, I love, you know, the actor mentality of like, I can do it, I'm an actor. But like, you have to understand, like, there is something to an aesthetic. There is something to a feel, to a tone, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of like creative ideas that we don't really know are always going on. You know what I mean? Like, we can't be in the producer's head or the director's head or whatever. So all we can do is like get a feeling for what they're like moving towards, and then try and like create options for them. That is our job, is to create options based on how we feel they're going creatively. You know what I mean?
So if somebody is you know, a really good actor, but they just don't have a ton of experience, and maybe they're not, you know, coming in for you, or they're starting their journey to start auditioning for lots of casting. Yeah. I mean, I guess one of the questions for me would be like, how do they even get started? Is it like agent related, where they need to get an agent to get them in? Can they send you things? Do you even look at postcards? Because I know that's a big thing that people like to do drop-offs, and I'm like, they don't have time for that. Like, if somebody wants to create a new relationship that they don't have already, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, you know what? You keep honing in on your career every day. I mean, right now, like, the big difference between today and when I first moved out here is online. You know, you have your phone, you know, there's you can make stuff with constantly work on your craft, you know, even if you're not coming in for big network stuff, but you're like, you know, you're still filming stuff, you're being creative, you're, you know, and constantly like in your environment of your friends. Like, one of the most beautiful things about LA is everybody's in the industry. You know what I mean? Like,
in some way or another.
You're not in like Iowa, where you're the only person trying to act, and people, you know what I mean, where it's really hard to find that creative connection with people that continues to help you grow as an artist, as a creative. Like,
Yeah.
You can thrive in LA because everybody here is doing the same thing. Just ask, like, I'm sure that you're like, you know, your group of friends and peers are doing the same thing, and like get together and use that and make yourself better. And like, even like, because that gives you something on a reel, you know what I mean? Like, even if it's not like some big network TV or something, whatever it is, like, at least I can see that you're doing something, that you're trying, you know what I mean? Like, so I have something, like, especially like, again, for these co-star roles, you know, and it's not like, you know, I can see that maybe you did, you know, that maybe you did something, you know, one other thing. So I know that you're SAG or whatever it is, whatever. And then like on your reel, you know, there might be a bunch of like little YouTube videos or whatever, but it's something that I can get a feel for you, you know.
Or you
what
can
I mean?
hire me to make really great footage for you, so that somebody who's like you watches it,
right?
can go like, oh wow, this looks like it's coming from a real thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So working on your craft. How do you feel about actors appropriately connecting with somebody like you or other peers that you have via social media, like through DMs, or, you know, appropriately, not like hire me, but like, hey, I really enjoyed your work, keep it up.
Yeah.
Like, do you like messages like that? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, kind of that's fine. I mean, I get it, it's hard. It depends on where I am in my day and my time. You know what I mean? Like right now, like I mean, I've gotten emails, you know, from people that like, you know, they're like, hey, check me out. Like, would love to come in for you one day. You know, and here's the link to my stuff. You know, and right now, like I can watch those things, and I have, you know, a little folder in my Gmail for like, you know, self-pitched actors that I think are interesting. Like, you know, that I can go back and look if there's, you know, there's so many like roles that we get that are strange, right? And we're like, oh my God, where are we going to start? You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
These
so,
like,
so if you're real weird, you have an in with Carrie.
I mean, not real weird,
No,
but it's just different. If you're just looking, you know, you feel like you've auditioned every actor in Hollywood sometime, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, it's hard to really say. I don't think that there's an actual key for everything, but just like do what you can, you know what I mean? Like there's not all casting directors, you know, are going to want any of that. You know, some of them love it. Like,
sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but you can only control you know what I mean? You have to do the work. And so like, you can't think about like, oh, you know, what am I doing that, what else can I do? You know, whatever it is, just like work on it every day. Like do what resonates with you. You know what I mean? There's a fine line between being persistent and being annoying.
Yeah. That's why I say appropriately reaching out and not being annoying and only asking, but also giving value and making sure that the timing is right. And like you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff I think that would go into that, but but what I think is really key to what you're saying, and I just want to call it out because I just think it's so good, because it's something that I firmly believe in. Yeah. And I love taking credit for it, but it's not me. is actors who make their own things, regardless of whether it's like their own project, their web series, film, whatever, or they're, say, hiring somebody like me, and then they're helping produce their stuff because they need specific footage to really sell themselves as this type of stuff. What tends up happening is, I see this again and again and again, the moment that people start investing in themselves in that way, their energy shifts. Yes. And then there's this different sort of like ownership of what they're doing and how they're approaching things, and they're learning a whole bunch, and then they appreciate you more. And so that when they do come across your radar in whichever way that happens, there's this attractiveness to them for you, right? Like, because you can just tell the difference between somebody who's putting in the work and making things and being creative and taking ownership of that versus somebody who's just like,
because in that case, there's less room to have in their head of like, you know, of everything else. Like you remove the clutter when you're like focused, you know what I mean?
Ooh,
and then
that's so good. Ooh, that's so good.
It's a whole new mentality, and I just think that I don't know. Just keep working on it. Do your best. Like, you know, you will get better. You will get more comfortable. And that's another part, is just getting more comfortable. You know what I mean? Just by like the repetition of like doing, you know, these things.
Yeah. And doing them even if you're scared. Right.
Well, I mean, but sure, everybody, I mean, who isn't scared to start? Like, that's the whole thing, is it's confronting that fear so that you can move past it. And I feel like John's talked about this before, you know, and inviting the fear into the room with him, you know what I mean? And having it be an ally instead of, you know, something that's.
Also, you should go, everybody should go back to yesterday's, IG Live I did with my coach, Lori, where we talked about confidence versus self-confidence and sort of what that journey looks like. And it's on our IG too. It's really good. Okay. Real quick before we have to wrap up here in a couple minutes. I know that I've just heard these questions a lot. I've heard it talked about a lot, so I know that people would want me to ask.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about sort of what makes, for lack of a better term, like a good thumbnail, like the headshots and reels and materials that you're looking at. Like, what is it that you're looking for in those things that make them successful versus like materials you're seeing that aren't really successful?
I mean, if we don't know you, to be quite honest, like it's a look, you know what I mean? And like, and it's also for familiar, you know, faces. So like, if you're, you know, somebody that, you know, has come in and like kind of knows casting, I think like keeping your default photo, you know what I mean, on the thumbnails, because we're familiar with it. We've seen it a bunch of times and it sticks out to us, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's, you know, we love that person, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Okay.
But then like, and I think that they have the ability to change the default on the submissions of like of the photo that they use for the submission, you know what I mean? So like, if you need to have kind of like a plethora, you know, and even if somebody looks interesting, what else have you done? Like, show them like whatever characters that you think that, you know, you should be playing with. That's also it. Like, know what your look is, you know what I mean? Know what casting directors are casting the things that you're right for, and focus on those. Know what they're casting, when they're casting it, you know what I mean? So that like when you are sending, you know, flyers or whatever, then it's something that doesn't just get thrown in the trash can, because it's more relevant to what we're actually doing. So it's not a waste of time, you know, necessarily.
But how do you feel about people's, because I make reels, I'm curious to know from your end, when you're seeing reels and stuff, obviously you're first probably wanting to see stuff that's on legit shows, right? Like things that are real.
First step on any reel, if you have anything with any known actor, first step.
Right. Even always if it's something that you've made with me, because we've had some known actors be scene partners for people, and I'm like, you need to put this first.
And if you know, if you're the doorman opening the door for, you know, for Julia Roberts, like, and say, have a good day, man, whatever that is, like, because it proves that you've been on a set with major actors,
the big names,
you know,
and then you can be
trusted
trusted to do so,
right? You know, you're not going to show up like trying to do selfies or like talk to, you know, whatever, like it's all part of building up that trust of us knowing that like you've done this before and that you're going to show up and you know, and not, and just do your job.
And I would imagine also having footage and your headshots and stuff all basically saying the same things, that these are your tentpole roles that you are a lock for, and that this is what you can be consistently called in for and trust to be brought in for. I think the big takeaway in this conversation is that the actor's job outside of their craft, but their craft plays into it, is just their job is to create trust with you guys. So that a relationship of trust, so that when you're right for something, you know that casting director is going to bring you in. Because they know they can trust you. They basically, it's the know, like, and trust factor, right? They need to know you, then they got to like you, then they got to trust you. And it's our job as an actor to figure out how best to go about doing that. That feels very authentic to you, right? And I feel like
real to yourself too, because when people come in, they're clearly like so fake, you know what I mean? Like, it's gross. Like, you know, it's weird, you know what I mean? It's like you wouldn't talk to me if you saw me in the bar, you know what I mean? It's because you are coming into this room and like I feel like you're putting on a show for me, and it's gross. Like,
so just really own who you are as an actor.
And how you guys are, who you are as a person, you know what I mean? Like, as an actor and as a person, they're both of those things.
Which, by the way, I feel like is a very vulnerable thing to do.
Of course. It's a very vulnerable profession. It's the most vulnerable profession. And that's why it's so hard, and that's why it's nerve-wracking, you know? I mean, it's putting yourself out there. I mean, what about, you know, for, you know, casting something for, you know, a 20-year-old, you know, gay kid or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, don't be afraid to do that, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you are, I guess, whatever, and that's fine, you know what I mean? I'm not saying anything bad about that by any means, but just like, you know, no.
But it sounds like, though, the actors who really embrace who they are and what they have to bring to the table are the ones who are more memorable and the ones who are more successful with the group of, like, with casting directors, because because there's no, for lack of a term, bullshit, right? Like you know what you're getting, and they know what they're getting when they call you in, and that like you just have so much work to do every day that you just need people to cut through the crap, bring what they can, and and do something like that. That's awesome. Is there anything? So you've been in casting for a while. Is there anything like that used to work that now doesn't really work? Like for example,
things have only got, it's just become more work for us, to be honest, because you know what I mean, and it's fine. I mean, it's good because everything's digital, you know what I mean? Like when I first started, when we were doing testing, like we would need them to bring a stack of, their headshots for us to give, out to the studio, and, have 20, 25 headshots, whatever it is. And then we had to make package, with all these things in it, and like give them out to, and now like, and we still do that, like to a degree, like for sure. But at the same point, it's like, definitely we can just copy stuff off. It's not like they're bringing their stuff in, and we make our packets, and but then it's like, I don't know. So there's a lot of things that have become easier due to digital technology, but in the same way, like as it becomes easier, they're like, oh, you have more time for this. So there's not really like ever slimming down, like it's just like creating, room for more work.
It's just a different kind of work, right? It's just a different kind of work. So things that people maybe that, for example, like there used to be a thing where people would go around and take postcards to try and create relationships. That seems like a waste of time right now. But maybe it's not. I don't know.
The thing is like, if you're trying to come in and be like, hi, I have these postcards for you. Most of us, like, it's quiet in a casting office, but it's not because we're not working. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Where it's because we're working so hard that we don't have time to really chit chat. You know what I mean? And like, that's great. Like, you have it. That's awesome. Like, leave it on the counter when we have time. You know what I mean? But it's not like, we just have to be able to do things on our time. Like, don't take it, you can't take offense to it. Like, if we're not all like super cheery and excited to see you and your postcards walk through the door,
right. You guys got so much going on.
Because we're looking for actors. We don't know any, please. Like,
that's awesome. All right. So we have literally a minute remaining. So if people want to connect with you and tell you how awesome you are, because you are, is there a best way for them to get in touch with you, or do you just email?
I guess let's say it's hard because I check my messages on here.
Great, so they can follow you here on IG and maybe DM you and just kind of like keep up with your career. So girl, so this is so good.
My information is on IMDb, like my email and things like that, So
you guys, go ahead your email address and email her and tell her how awesome she is. So I've got about 20 seconds remaining. Thank you so much for coming on here. I definitely feel like we need to have you back because I didn't even get to half the questions I had.
I know. I have other things on here. I got like a whole new list. Like,
great. We'll have you back. I really, it's like 8 seconds. It's going to cut us off. So thanks everybody for watching.